Hello and welcome to the Coaching Podcast, coaching for success in sport and business. Your host is Emma Doyle, the energy and high performance under pressure coach who is a world leader in unleashing human potential. Buckle up for this high octane session. Let them have it, coach.
G'day and welcome to the Coaching Podcast. Today I have the pleasure of chatting with Mark Hlawaty, who's the head tennis coach of Royal South Yarra Tennis Club. Now, Mark really sees himself as an educator of all things related to tennis. He's been involved for most of his life in a competitive or coaching role. His highest ATP ranking was 437 in singles and low 200s in doubles. The beautiful game has taken him all over the world. And what he really loves to talk about is the challenges of relationships and how they're intertwined with tennis that he finds so fascinating in helping people develop and create a winning mentality. So without further ado, let's get going. G'day, Mark, and welcome to the Coaching Podcast. I've got a question straight off the bat. Do you walk or run? Or what's your take on exercise?
It's actually funny you mentioned that because I rode my bloody bike in this morning. It left the house at 5 a.m. in the dark to ride. I think it's 14 Ks here. So I'm all three, but that question just popped into my head because I was listening to a podcast of an Australian lady who's been doing a lot about body image and changing the mentality of what exercise is. Instead of exercising to look ripped and look shaped, to be exactly that, to move your body, to think clearer, to enjoy the outdoors, to make your heart work, to make you think more clearly. And that's a little change of mental philosophy now, but also being an old fart, I need to just move, otherwise I feel horrible.
I had such a clear moment when I was running this morning. It was so amazing that you just said that. Now, not every athlete has that. So listen, mate, I'm going to go straight to the Australian Open. It's just passed. Yep. And I know that you were working with a player there, and I've always loved being in the stands and watching you coach from afar. You might not have always known that I've been there at times over the years, but I've followed your career very closely because I always learn something. So could you share, even we're talking about clarity of mind and how players perhaps think differently sometimes. Could you share your AO experience with us?
Yeah, most definitely. I was lucky enough to be invited to help an American girl, Alicia Parks, I think she had her best ranking of 40, but she was about 80 at that stage. Her first Aussie Open main draw. Last year, she was number one seed in qualies and went down second round. So I'd never met her. I met her the day before the tournament started, but day before first round. I was on a family holiday and yeah, I know, perfect preparation. And couldn't get down there in time earlier. Like I couldn't leave my family and we needed this break. So I was like, I'm there on the day before. So the 13th, first round matches on the 14th of Jan. She plays on the 13th. And I said, I'll meet you in the gym as you warm up for your first hitting session. I had no idea. And, we meet each other in the gym and said, hey, I'm your new Tinder coach. Thanks for swiping right. And I'm here to help as much as I can, and I'd sent her a voice message previously just saying, listen, I'm a grown man. If I do stuff that you don't like, let me know. I'm here to help. So anything on the way you like to hear information. I've got some stuff from her coach. She wasn't able to travel from the States. So I got some background information on her. But I kind of wanted to hear from her and just say, what's your goals? What do you like doing? How do you like your trainings? And I think that kind of made her a little bit comfortable. And so when I rocked in and gave her the Tinder spiel, she kind of was laughing and that broke the ice. So we had one on-court session where she was hitting with a girl. So that was my first introduction with her live. I'd watched some tapes to get a bit of an understanding. And I actually saw her play at Wimbledon. She was playing on a court beside Jason Kubler, who I was watching, who was finishing off a match. So I was watching his and watching hers. And I even told her during the tournament that while watching her match, she should do 5 unbelievable points. And I would be like, wow, this girl's got some skills. But then she would miss 3 of the most easiest or just do some of the crazy stuff. And I was like, this is weird. Like she's hot, and then she's cold. And I didn't know. And then as the tournament evolved, she let me know that, she's struggling with some concentration issues, and these factors kind of made me understand what she's all about. And probably her biggest thing she said to me, she goes, if I'm happy off the court and with my stuff that happens off the court, I'm going to play freer and play better. So that was my ticket to going, okay, be the village idiot, make her laugh, be the court jester, and just try to keep the mood light and engaging and fun and varied, because her concentration was a bit in and out. And so I felt like that's all I did for the time. And I think she responded in a way that made life a bit easier. And she was good. Like, she'd give me feedback and just go like, no, I don't like that information, or I don't like the way that was said. So then you just find a different avenue. So it was pretty collaborative, which was good. And like, you're not going to reinvent the wheel when you meet a player the day before. You're just carrying on the work. So she's done all that pre-season work and she knows how to play. But it was just interesting to, like, sometimes spectators see these elite and think they're robots and are amazing, but they're so human. All they do is they do a skill that's highly skillful, and they do it well. But they're fragile, they're vulnerable, they're emotional, they have highs, they have lows, they have problems just like you and me, but it's on a bit of a grand scale. And it was good in that sense. And the best part about Alicia was she was very open and very engaging and collaborative with the way she sees things and her changing of her behaviors. And I think she's in a state now that she wants to be different from where she was with her initial responses. So, I'm guessing towards the back end of the year, she'll start, hopefully if she keeps working at it, she'll start to run hot, which I look forward to seeing that changing. And even to the fact that, like, on one of the days we're in line at the food and someone cut in, and she just turned to me and smiled and she goes, Mark, the old Alicia would have had a confrontation right there and probably pushed that person. And now I just smile and let them in. And I was going, whoa, who is this person? Like, what happened to the old Alicia? And it may have been just like a simple thing, but that's, step one in a bloody long journey. And like the day after, famous coconuts that you can get there at the Aussie Open, she went to stab it, get the straw in, and the straw fell on the ground. And normally that would ruin a day. And she just looked at me and she goes, I'll get another straw. And I was like, whoa, this person's changing. So it was like baby step. For us, it was nothing. But for her, it's a start of a shift in mindset. So yeah, it was amazing. And she had a tough, after Aussie Open, she's had, I think 3 or 4 first round losses in tournaments. And, I saw some of the highlights and I couldn't travel with her. She asked me to go on the road, and, with my family commitments and my work commitments, I'd love to, but I just couldn't. And, and I messaged her and saying, good things are around the corner, the way she was playing. And she's going, yeah, she goes, I feel like I'm doing the right things. And I'm just like, my message was like, it's, good things are going to happen, if she keeps persisting at it. So yeah, it was an exciting time. It was weird, but like, it just proves that like we're all bloody human, irrelevant in what you do. We always sometimes compare and think they're better than me, but like we all have our own little situations that we're not happy with and vulnerable with and don't like.
Yeah. And the one thing that you said off air as well that I loved is the fact that you needed to do something for 3 minutes and then move on. Sometimes we think about just hitting cross-court forehands for half an hour like a robot. We think that's what the pros do. You shared that again, didn't suit her personality around.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Kyrgios. You can't put him in a box of training. Like, you got to just allow the creator to be creative. And, and because Alicia had issues and struggles with concentrating for long periods of time, it was just do something well for a burst. And before it starts going downhill and you lose her, then you just change and go to the next thing, which is different to like a lot of coaches. And I'm sure what you've done in the past is you try to stick at something till you get it better and better. But it was just like, no, do that, do something else, go back to that, which changed my coaching mindset to a big degree, because normally you just do the opposite. You stick with one thing. You can have one drill for an entire session almost. But she was like, I need to do different things, and you just chop and change, and which made it fun as well, because an hour on court, you could be doing 30 different activities.
Yeah.
Which was, you got to keep going through the Rolodex and through your plan of like, what's next, and fly by the seat of your pants a little bit. But it was fun and challenging.
And what I want to also just add to our listeners out there is to experiment with kids learn best through opposites, not just kids, but adults. And don't forget, our podcast is Coach for Success in Sport and Business. So on the sporting scale, and if we take our sport, particularly market in tennis, if I want to teach depth, then working on the drop shot and working on the shorter swing to feel the drop shot, and then working on depth and then go back to the drop shot and then go back to depth is another great example, rather than working on depth for an hour and really seeing micro improvements. But sometimes experimenting with opposites, I highly recommend that. And in the workplace, what I want to pick up on for the business coaches or managers and leaders listening to this podcast, is that you will have a 44% in customer retention when people in your workplace are actually focusing on strengths. So doing what they do best. If I'm in a role doing what I do best, then we've got that customer retention and a higher performance in me. So that's my next question to you, Mark. When somebody comes to you, how much do you focus on strengthening strengths versus improving weaknesses?
Yeah, well, I find, with our club role here, like, you're getting a lot of recreational players. Like a lot of people, when they watch the TV, it looks so perfect, and you're never going to be that. Like, your style's different to my style. So it's like, it's more about what I like to, they basically may have not played for X amount of years and they want to get back into it. So it's their friends going, hey, let's go down for a hit. I want to at least be able to rally and control the ball. So it's doing all the really technical stuff is not so much, but it's more about improving the understanding of the game and then doing that as best you can. Like, if your backhand's not great, then when your forehand's good, let's just do lots of forehands, because all of a sudden, if you enjoy something, you're going to do it a little bit more or a lot more, and use your self-esteem and the way you respond to the activities are definitely better when I feel like the headspace is better, and especially with young kids as well. Like, whenever a parent sees a kid play sport, sometimes the first thing, and even as competitors, you always remember the stuff that you didn't do well. Like, I've started to do with some of the players is like, when they do things well and play well, like, do you ever sit down at the end of a match, go, wow, these are the things that I did really well, and it was because of this that I did these well. But if you play a bad match, you could write a novel of all the things you did poorly, and you'll spend days mulling over it. But on a good day, you just go, wow, that was awesome, and you leave. You never spend the time to go, wow, I played unbelievable. Why? How was my focus? How was my intensity? How was my mindset? How was my responses to adversity? We never do. We just kind of walk away, and it always seems to be the negative that we harp on. So, like, I do like the idea of doing more of the good stuff. When is there not going to be something that's not great? There's always going to be something that's going to be there that's not as comfortable and not as good. And also depends on the personality. If the person's able to respond well to some things that are not great, then you can work through it. But if they get emotional, then it's like, for a paying customer, they want a kind of a good time as well, and they want to enjoy the session. So it's a little bit more like you can make the good really good. Like, even Steffi Graf had a slice backhand and didn't have a topspin backhand, and she was #1 in the world. Like, like, do the good unbelievably good. Like, so yeah, I like that side of it. What do you normally go to?
Yeah, I think more and more these days, I focus on really strengthening the strengths. And if there's a way, like I'm a lot more in the business coaching world these days. So we talk about the B's, if you've got a weakness or an area for development, as I like to say from the sporting language, the reframe of a weakness is an area for development. You can buy someone's time to fill in that gap. You could borrow, you can barter.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And I played like Steffi Graf, so I was all about hiding the top spin backhand.
Yeah.
But I think that also in today's world, we sometimes focus, when somebody comes to a tennis coach per se, and you say, what do you want to work on? They'll always go to, well, my top spin backhand is shit. So let's focus on that. And so 95% of the lesson is on that. And it's the micro moments of improvement are so small that I think it's a balance and a dance, and every athlete is different, as you said. But I more and more focus on the strengths and how do we mirror those or just sedate and hide some of the areas for development, for sure, because tennis doesn't reward perfection. It rewards bravery and grit. And talk to me about problem solving. I know that's a passion area for both of us as it relates to coaching. Do you believe that we overcoach these days?
Oh, way. Yeah. And that's right. My philosophy is almost like when you toss the racket, until when you shake hands, is just that period of time there. It's testing your ability to solve the problem out there and go, hey, and then it's kind of life. I'm now luckily a parent, and you understand that you don't want your kids to fail. You don't want to see that, and you don't want them to fall, but that's where they learn the most. You're never going to let them fall and be in danger. So it's a safety fall. But, I think probably society is, we all want to be awesome at everything, and everything's rainbows and it's wonderful. And you don't face the adversity and the hardships where the lessons are learned. That's where the magic happens, where your back's up against the wall, and how do you solve it? What do you do? And, that goes to, daily life, kids traveling, here and there and on public transport. Great. Don't get driven everywhere. Find out how you can get to A to B by yourself, and you learn independence. So I love that side of it. And, were you able to outthink your opponent? They threw something at you, and even in a business, that you get thrown a curly one. What do? You got to think quickly on your feet and be able to go, well, I've got to do this, this, and this. Doesn't mean you're going to get it right. And with tennis, you may run out of time because you're on a scoreboard. You may run out of games to problem solve it. So you've got to think on your feet. But yeah, I think it's changed a lot now with everything's on your phone, and you almost don't have to think. All you have to do is type.
Yeah, in a match, we problem solve, or we have to problem solve.
Yeah.
How could a coach work on that in practice? What do you do?
Yeah, I think sometimes the more questions we ask of them instead of us giving them the answer. Do you think that's the right option for there? Yes. Why? Why do you think that shot wasn't as good as you would like? If you make an error and you throw your hands up in the air, go, bloody hell, what's going on? Okay, what could you have done better in that scenario? You've just lost 5 points in a row. What's going to change now? Do you rush, or do you take some time? How have I won the points? Do you feel like you've got a bunch of momentum now or not? And then what can you do? Who's holding the cards right now? Who's in the better position, you or me? It's me. Then okay, what can you do to try to turn that around? I think so, yeah. I'd never like to give too many answers. I'd like to probably give a lot more questions, and what do they think and what do they see? And obviously sometimes you just get the standard I don't know, and then you delve a little bit deeper, and they probably do know. They just don't know how to articulate it. But I think sometimes the answers are given to them on a plate. They don't get to think. Otherwise, you're like you're at school that goes in this ear and out the other ear, instead of being able to then go, okay, if I say it, then at least I've had to think about it and try to work on that response and that answer, and give a bit of a view of what's going on compared to just going internally like, I'm playing so badly.
Well, anyone who listens to this show knows me and knows that every single episode I encourage coaches to ask more questions. There's no doubt about it. So that's singing to the way that my brain works, and not
otherwise you're basically just a textbook.
Yes.
It's just flip a page and find the answer. There it is, forehand, cross court into the bottom of the net. There's it's just too many variables in that, and hopefully, we do a good job. We're almost redundant to a certain degree. The player can then make those decisions out on court and understand, and you can just add a little bit of lipstick to it all, and let them, be the ones that are, that can find a way and do all those things.
Yeah. So what is a winning mentality anyway? When you say you help people create a winning mentality, what is that?
One of them, I think, is to find the why, like why are they doing it? Why are they playing at whatever level, like either elite or just socially, could be for health, it could be for mental well-being, whatever it is. And I probably feel like to my detriment, in my vision, especially when working a little bit more at the elite stuff, I kind of felt like people didn't take me seriously because I was a little bit more, say, positive and it's probably doesn't sound like the right way to say it, but a bit more lighter and a little bit more not as deadly serious. And like, I'm not taking this stuff to the grave with me. I'm not losing sleep over it. Like it's light and positive, and if I'm laughing on court and we're enjoying it, like I used to think that from an elite level was not the right kind of look. It wasn't as professional as some of the others that are like this stone-faced, deadly serious. So, to me, so far, a lot of the people tend to respond better in that safer, lighter, fearless environment compared to, having being whacked with a stick. I don't think that works. That could work for a small period of time, but are you going to be a well-rounded human? Probably not. So I think the winning mentality is to understand what is your why, like why you're doing it, and then just embrace it and just do it, and wherever it takes you, whatever grade. Like if you win one social match or you win a tournament, it's irrelevant. If you're enjoying the time to be out there, that's an engaging winning mentality for me. The outcome is just the outcome. That's not a massive focus compared to the doing it as best you can.
Yeah, I think that's a great message for our listeners out there. Even at the highest level, it is important that they understand their why, and not just because I'm good at it or my parents have pushed me into it and now this is the only thing I've got left. And I think so much of tennis players wrap their identity into I am a tennis player versus I choose to play tennis. What are your thoughts on that?
And it's funny, like when you win, everyone's around you, and the first response you always hear, even through junior days, when you come off the court, did you win? Did you win? So it's almost like your happiness and your emotional state is based on the win-loss. Not too many kids or even parents go, wow, did you really enjoy that out there today? That's your first response. It never is. It's always so much of a win-loss, which is, to me, is dangerous. Like it's, even at the Australian Open, there's 128 players in the draw, one person wins. If you were to ask all those players, I'm sure a lot of those players would have had successful weeks. I know Alicia made the third round. For her, that was a massively successful week, and it's the third round. She's won 2 matches, whereas, one person wins the entire tournament. So everyone has their own little success story, compared to just that one person. So, there's a lot of potential happiness in that. I'm sure they're upset that they lost, but there's still some wins with that. So, I get a little bit, not scared, but you get a little bit worried when players are, they rock up and you see they're up and about because they've obviously had a win, or they're down and out, when they've lost and they take it to heart. And, throughout the entire year, you're going to lose a hell of a lot more than you're going to win. Even in the business side, you're going to probably take a lot more hits than you have successes. But then you've got to celebrate not so much the success of the win, but like, even if you lose, like, be proud of your effort. Like, that's a big one for me, is like, did you give it the best you could possibly do? Some days yes, some days no, but we're all human, so you're going to have some good days and some not so good days. So being wound into your winning is going to make me happy and losing is going to make me sad. It doesn't work. Not longevity, unfortunately.
Yeah, I bet you've seen plenty of players that have quit the sport or dropped out because of exactly what you just said. So
it goes back to the problem solving. Like, you're going to face adversity. Like, what are you going to do? If it gets hard, do you just go, I'm done, and I'll give it up, because it could be my real first taste of hardship, because I've had such a cushioned, velvet gloved lifestyle that this is my first bit of adversity, and it's too hard. I'm out of here. Like, go work in a factory 14 hours a day, earning $1 a day, and then talk about some hardship and some adversity. There's always people would love to swap and be in your shoes. That's for sure.
In 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what do you think makes a great coach?
Understanding, listening, openness.
And could you provide an example of each of those, please?
Understanding. Well, I think, when a player comes to the coach, it's like the coach has got to ask a whole bunch of questions beforehand, like, what do you do well? How long have you been playing? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Playing for fun, you're playing for fitness. So that understanding, and because you're not going to try to turn this person who's playing socially into a hard, dedicated 12 hours a week of training. It's just not going to be. That's the difference. So the understanding of that, and also understanding, where they are, physically, emotionally, like, you get some, parents that are coming down, and it's like, this is my 1 hour break a week where I can just go tools down and forget about stuff and just smash balls, and like, just let them smash balls. Like, you don't have to necessarily see massive improvement. So understanding why they're into the sport. Once they start to talk about the why they're playing, is then, okay, then if you really understand what they're saying and you're open to listening, and you don't have your head like, I've got to make this forehand this or this backhand, they've got to play a certain way, or we're going to do this no matter what, is then having the flexibility to go, this is what they want, give them what they want. If they don't want to, my backhand's horrible, then fine, they don't really want to do it. Don't go there. Like, just do the other stuff and do that well. And also just hearing, especially with the kids, like, sometimes they'll come to you and talk about their days and talk about the challenges that they're having off court with their friends, socially, emotionally, and just being, not a fixer, just be a person they can go, and an adult they can just go and offload to, and be able just to talk without judgment, and just go, yep, I hear, like, that's challenging and that's tough, because sometimes the other adults that they're talking to are parents, and they're maybe scared of that they're going to be judged for whatever reason. So just being that listening person. Openness, like, share some of your vulnerability to them, because when you're side by side, you talk about all things. So and sometimes even at an elite level, like, the players are going through some difficult moments, and having that openness to share your hard times, and not for them to also help you. You can spend a lot of time with the players on the road when they're full time. So having that openness to do that, and also openness to try different things. Sometimes, coaches can be set in their ways, and you hear people that haven't played for a while, and they come back in court and go, God, back in the day, I got told to step with my left foot forward on every hit. And why not? Is it different now? And you got to be open to change, and the game evolves, and just because I did something a year ago doesn't mean that it's still relevant, or for this person, it may be something totally different. And just with the internet, with all the stuff that's on social media, there's so many amazing skills you can pick up from different sports and different avenues that just, fill up your bag with new tricks, and you can relate it to tennis and you can relate it to off-court stuff as well. So the more of that, the better. And also personally, I guess for me is getting better in my relationship with my loved ones makes me better, because then I get a better understanding. Like, I know I don't do things great off the court, in my relationship, the way I respond. So learning all that stuff then helps me communicate with you as an adult, as a person, as a kid, and then also to maybe understand there's other kids respond and other adults respond in a similar way like I do. So improving me off the court with the way I handle things can definitely help, and be open, and God, we're far from perfect.
We're also, I know that you're passionate about being the eternal student yourself.
Forever,
forever.
Seeing your podcast, and I said before, seeing your podcast and your people, and you just go, wow, there's just so many skilled and so intelligent people, that stuff that goes on that I'm not a mega deep thinker, and you just go, people are in a different realm, which is really exciting, because I feel like my world is this big and then they're like this, and you just stop to think about it, and you can learn from so many, and it's just constant, which is good as well. And I guess your philosophy changes all the time. Like, I'm sure with you, with the way you started when you're in your 20s is different to now. So it should be, because if you're the same person you are then, there's not much, you haven't grown a hell of a lot. Yeah. And look at your career, how it's turned from tennis to this, and God knows where it goes from there. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Oh, this is my favorite thing about the podcast, honestly, is these interviews, is these chats, because I get so much out of them every time I chat to, people who are coaches, who are real in the trenches, and whether you're in business or sport or tennis, this is why I love it.
What do you find? Sorry, what do you find from the business side of things with all your? I'm sorry to turn this on you a little bit, but what do you find the couple of main things from the business element that can be really related to tennis, to even fast track it? So what do you find from that side of things?
Yeah, so with my book, when I synthesized the data of 520 of the world's leading coaches into the top 10 practices in what makes a great coach, what I then did is 328 of those were just tennis. So then I isolated that tennis data, and 105 were business coaches, and then 71 were sports coaches from over 21 different sports. So if I look at just what the business coaches said make a great coach, it was a lot higher in empathy and listening, for example.
Yeah.
The business coaches do a wonderful job of asking great questions, doing a lot more homework around real empathy, being able to see what somebody else sees, and truly present listening.
Yeah.
And then the sports coaches were if I just took the data from the tennis coaches, they were very high on passion, very high on resiliency. So there's two examples of why I run the podcast.
Very different, isn't it?
And two examples of why I run the podcast. And remember, my biggest aha moment was when I started studying business coaching, because I was more of a technical junkie, sort of, really loved being a very direct teacher. And then when I learned how to be a business coach, I had to run sessions where I wasn't allowed to give one directive command. And this is somebody who loved giving directive commands and thought that that's what coaching really was.
Yeah.
And I really think that's a distinction between teaching, and sometimes we need to teach at certain moments. But the older I get, yes,
the more experience you get.
The more experience, thank you. Not beautiful reframe. I'll pay you later for that one. The more I'm understanding that the true value lies in the deeper the connection of listening, empathy, curiosity, superpowers of a coach to truly then bring that into the sports world is definitely one of the reasons I do the podcast.
Yeah.
And why I seek out unique guests who are living and breathing these types of principles and mentalities. So that's definitely, yeah. So thank you for,
I guess from a business side, when they're dealing with, large organizations and lots of people, there's just so many varied people, that whole empathy and that understanding and that connection is massive to get them more. And I guess when you're looking, I guess, more of the elite, the player, the high profile player and the coach, it's that one-on-one connection. When you talk someone like Ash Barty, when she was working with Craig, when she was playing with Ties, like that was a perfect fit, like a father figure, comforter, calm disposition. Like if she wouldn't have worked with someone who was boisterous and loud and it was just not the right, and the relationship and his ability to understand and care, exactly for her needs.
And in the business world, the statistic is that 70% of the time, someone will leave a job, even if they don't have another job, due to a poor manager or a poor leader. So you think about even that in the sports world or as a coaching world, if that person doesn't care and they're not curious and they don't listen, they don't have empathy, then people are going to leave. They'll just be totally unhappy. It doesn't matter if you're in business or in sport. So I think that stat is really, really relevant. So Mark, my final question for you, because I could talk for another 3 hours with you very easily. So to keep everyone's attention span, our season 6 question finale is, what disruptive idea do you have that will impact the way we coach in 2030?
Geez, disruptive. God, we could be talking AI technology here. That's right.
We could.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I'll be on the beach in Thailand with my feet up or dipping in the water with my goggles on, coaching here in Melbourne with the other player virtually on a computer screen. And on my 4th cocktail by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that'll be the standard practice. Yeah, that'll be quite productive. Whoa, disruptive.
Very disruptive.
Yeah. Wow. 2030. Oof. That's a tough one. Yeah. Like I look at it potentially from the coaching role or what coaches do and maybe the industry. I'd like the balance of work and life to change. Like that, I think is a big one. I think a lot of industries have, it used to be you used to work from home and you were a slacker and everyone knew you were off having a good time for the day and not really doing work, but that's all changed and people are working remotely in all these other fields. So I think maybe from a tennis industry point of view, I'm talking kind of clubland and coaches, that there'll be a shift and a balance in making sure, because I don't know about you, you're hearing that it's so hard to get people in this industry now. Like it's not a career option, it's a hobby turned into a career. So especially for the female side, it's just so tough. And female coaches are like unicorns, like to find women that want to be in this industry and on the court, it's tough. And it's such a blokes world, which is an issue in itself. So, I think being able to combine the balance of your home life with your work life, and getting that better. So then coaches can stay in this environment for longer and deliver a far better product because they're not missing out on their family life, but then they're still able to deliver really good instruction and really good relationship building with others because they're in a good headspace. And I'm probably saying that out of, my personal situation, and I've been forced into that to a certain degree to alter my work schedule. And I've just felt that being able to look after stuff that's happening off the court has definitely made me far more appreciative to be on the court and value my time more on the court, and also value my club more because they're open to that as well. So I think maybe potentially that could be the the changing culture, just like working from home was a massive changing culture, and and not being in the office was a massive changing culture. Who would have thought that 10 years ago or even 8 years ago that was going to be the norm, and could a business function like that? So it's happened in other areas and other industries. So yeah, maybe from a clubland perspective and a coaching environment perspective, that I would love to see that and have a better balance, so then we get longevity and people are not getting burnt out, and they do get to spend time with their loved ones and families, and also then do a bloody good job once they're on the tennis court, because it's value time, and they're fresh to really do it instead of stale and it's Groundhog Day.
Yep. Well, from Tinder coaching to find...
That's a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
No, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. To finding your why by understanding, listening, be open to be vulnerable, and ask more questions. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for allowing me to watch your journey with some of those pro players over the years, and teaching me the importance of it's okay to have fun. That's what I'm always, sometimes I always question, I need to be more serious, or I need to be more this way on court. At the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. It's how do we bring the best of our personality out based on the needs of the player.
And I guess that's why I like working with kids, because we're on the same intelligence wavelength. Sometimes there's some 6-year-olds out here that are way smarter than me. So I feel like I don't have the stresses of anyone else's real world life. Like my stressful thing is, like, I've had 4 or 5 hours in a row on the court, and people are coming to us for enjoyment and because of their passion and their health. So like, it's a bloody good environment to be in. Like, we're not coming with people dumping the worst of their worst on top of us. So, if not getting the best result out of a forehand's the most stressful part of my day, then geez, I'm lucky and privileged to be in that spot. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, coaching is just that. We're very privileged to do what we do and impact those that we coach. So just thanks again, mate. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thank you. Keep up the great work. It's exciting for all of us to be able to tap into all these people that we would have no resources to get into, and to hear them speak and to learn from them. So yeah, unbelievable work that you're doing, and it's going to be exciting the year ahead.
Appreciate you, mate. And thank you everyone for listening.
The Coaching Podcast is sponsored by Transition Coach for Athletes, a global coaching, mentoring, and US college sporting scholarship placement service. The service helps athletes navigate the often challenging world of choosing your best college fit while maximizing sports performance. Visit www.transitioncoachforathletes.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating review on your podcast listening device. And don't forget to tell a fellow coach about the show. The ball is in your court to take action and enjoy your coaching.